Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Carla, and this is Carol.
Hey.
We are The Soul's Journey. Do you want to say something?
Today we're going to talk about the crumbling. Crumbling comes from one of our mentors called Rebecca Campbell, who we just love because she is so succinct in being able to coin an experience in such a beautiful way. And so we're just going to give you our experience because everybody experiences a crumbling.
Yeah.
And when we do, we feel like we're so alone. And we actually feel like there's no one that understands what we're going through. And we're here to tell you, it's okay. We all go through it. You go through many, and you will get through it. And we want to be here to help you in our journey and show you how we've actually got through these crumbling experiences and how we can be here and talk about it. And then we ended up, going in and crumbling again.
Yeah.
It's just part of life.
It is part of life, and it's easy to talk about when you're not in one, especially, but I think that that's so important because it's only a matter of time till both of us are in one again, as Carol just said, and that in not sharing, we can forget that other people's lives fall apart around them. And so a big motivator for us to make this video was to have that connection, what we're about at The Soul's Journey, in letting people know that they aren't alone, because this could be relevant for you right now, or when you come across this video, or when we watch it back, because it's going to be us taking and giving and reminding ourselves of our own advice too when we watch this again at another point when our crumbling occurs.
It's what is a crumbling? Okay, a crumbling is those times in your life when you're plodding along, life is what it is, but you know that you're just not happy with your life. Then bang, everything starts to fall apart. You lose your job. You end up having to get evicted from your house. Someone passes away in your family, or an animal, or your child is getting bullied at school and you don't know how to handle it. Whatever. Or you're getting bullied at work and you don't know how to handle it. But what a crumbling is more about an experience. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that all of a sudden you just drop. You drop to a space that low vibration, that fear, that shame, that hurt, that pain, and you're cycling around that.
Yeah. And it feels completely isolating, enormously terrifying. And you might not even recognize that all of those feelings are happening in the first instance, because I think before a crumbling can get to its rock bottom point, the real sticky bit where you kind of just get to that, I'm going to throw my hands up, I'm like, I don't know, which we'll talk about soon because it's actually our favorite part. But before that, it can look like you madly scrambling, being in denial about particular feelings that are coming up, or a situation that's coming up when it's occurred to you, maybe the person that you're in a relationship with and you are not the same as when you first met, and you start to see the flags, your instincts, that inner wisdom part of you tells you that something is off. And sometimes this is in some types of crumbling. There are other types of crumbling that can happen really suddenly without warning. But these are the ones that are probably more likely to come up, or more frequent and really subtle, but slowly grow. You can catch us off guard until it kind of amounts. So there's so much evidence that tells you this situation is no longer for your highest good, that you can't ignore it. But you don't know any different. You're scared of what the alternative is, because it's unknown territory, it's familiar, and we love and crave stability. So crumblings like that show up in everyone's lives all of the time. And sometimes we can be resilient in managing them, or, you get that empowered surge. It's like, that job's not for me anyway. I'm going to go and find a new one. And other times it doesn't quite look like that. There's much more of an emotional attachment. It's very scary and hurtful and painful. It's feeling like a sense of loss.
Yeah. And crumblings often happen in transitions in life. When you're leaving school, everybody goes through a bit of a crumbling when they're leaving school, because it's like you've been in that institution for your whole life as you know it, and now you're going into this world. And so how does that look like? So it's when we're stepping into the unknown of something, when circumstances of life have changed so much that you actually don't know where to step next. So all we're here to say is like, A, you're not alone, and B, there is a way out.
So we thought we'd really like to share how we've overcome our personal experiences of crumblings late in like the last little while, since we've learnt how of the importance of authenticity, freedom and empowerment are, and that these crumblings have occurred and kind of shifted our experience of freedom, or you know, you don't really feel empowered when you're at your rock bottom. That can come, and you can go, as Carol said, into all sorts of shame, and authentic is the last thing that you kind of feel like being. You really just want to hide and, you know, stay in bed and not have to deal with it and hope it goes away. So we just wanted to share that as we've become aware of the importance of those values, how we've moved through crumblings, not dismissing them or trying to get through them quicker, but yet coming back to how we can sustain that period of change or experience that period of change, still maintaining a sense of empowerment. And we were talking about this, and one of the first things that came up was awareness.
How do you know when you're in a crumbling?
As we said, sometimes it can crop up really quickly and you're like, okay, there's no way of denying this. Like everything is just fallen apart very suddenly. And as I said, sometimes it's a little harder to detect until that consistent discomfort of uneasiness just is your day-to-day experience, your dissatisfaction with life, and a knowing that there's definitely something better out there for you.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a chronic crumbling, which is that slow crumbling that chips away, and then, you know, you go, I want something more. And you know, like when I first came to Australia, you know, before I came to Australia, I just knew that in my job I was just not being fulfilled anymore. And it was like slowly and slowly it was getting harder to do the same job that I always did because my heart wasn't in it anymore.
Actually, I think Rebecca Campbell, who we were referring to using that term, the crumbling that we love so much, very clearly writes in one of her books that it's when anything inauthentic that cannot stand anymore. So when your values have changed, what things matter to you have changed, where you end up in a job or a relationship or a physical place that you are that just isn't for you anymore, this changes start.
Yeah. And sometimes it could lead you to be isolated, and it could lead you to be depressed, and it could last for years and years and years, or it could last for 5 minutes, like an acute crumbling. So like a sudden phone call that something's happened that's going to change your life forever, and it just hits you like bang.
I like that. Chronic and acute.
Yeah, chronic crumbling or an acute crumbling.
But it's an awareness. I'm in one. It doesn't feel good. And the second part is what you do with that awareness. And I think for both of us lately, in our crumblings around, you know, we're going through some huge changes around work and relationships with our families, and just things that aren't right for us, or, you know, ways of doing things that we'd outgrown, we changed our connection to and our value for. You have to have a lot of self-compassion when you're experiencing these things, or we're finding it very helpful. And that looks like saying, this is crap. Excuse my language, but this sucks.
It's not okay for me anymore. Yeah. It's not okay for me anymore. I don't want to live my life like this anymore. I don't want to get up feeling this way anymore. And so it's that space where you just realize, I'm actually not living the true potential and the true life that I really want to live.
Yeah.
I need to do something about it. And so awareness is number one.
Yes. And so we started chatting a little bit there about how the second part is about feelings and owning the feelings that come with a crumbling, the fear of the unknown, the fear of judgment, to do something that's different to what you'd always done, and how people perceive you, and an identity shift. And be it, you know, again, it could be a person that you're dating, that you really are in love with them, but you know that they don't fit a particular mold or expectation. There's a whole lot that Carol and I will be sharing around expectations and people-pleasing behaviors and things like that. But all of those can surface in crumblings, and the emotions that can come up from that, acknowledging those. Carol taught me a few months ago, maybe a little longer, about how when uncomfortable emotions come up, how to honor them in a really meaningful way. And that she always encourages me, if I call her inner crumbling, which tends to be what you do because you flip out or you either want to hide, but at some point you come out of it and you're like, you know what, I just feel so,
I need a lifeline.
I need a lifeline, I feel so scared. And Carol would say to me, all right, close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and the other one on your belly. You know where I'm going with this? And she would say, I want you to just welcome all of that emotion in. And it's the last thing you want to do. This is the beginning of what we call surrendering. Yeah. And it's self-respecting. It's not having pity. It's not being a victim. It's not giving up. But it's honoring and inviting in the fear, the sadness, the worry, the shame, the regret, whatever it is that has kind of been brought to the surface from whatever's changing in your environment, in your field. And do you want to share why you always invite me to do that?
Well, I was enjoying that moment with you, because you really, while sharing that, it actually got me back into my body and got me feeling. And the reason why is when we're in a crumbling, we're always trying to push away what we're feeling. We're always trying to push away and want something different. So this leads into addictions, okay, I'm going to eat chocolate and that will make me feel better, or I'm going to have a drink, or I'm going to go and do some crazy exercise because it will pump me up and it will get my endorphins going and I'll feel better for a bit. But as soon as the endorphins drop again, you're like, oh, I feel sad again. And rather than avoiding those feelings, invite them all in, because they will pass. If you give them space, if you give them time and you honor them for being real in you, and you breathe into them and you allow them to be there, they will pass. In fact, I often get people to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and feel it more and more and more and more until you get a burst.
She does. And then you get there and then she goes, and what's the next feeling? And I'm like, enough. Enough. But it is actually at the end of it. Sorry.
I just said, and you just keep dropping into the next feeling, and then you keep dropping into the next feeling. But the key is focus. You've got to come back in and you've got to go, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here?
And own that part of you, those parts that you can't feel whole and complete if you're not willing to experience those emotions. They are a contract that comes with being human. They're just part and parcel with the experience. You can't have the joy without that. And I know that people say that, but often it's like you don't know how to sit in it because we're trained, don't feel sorry for yourself, which is this isn't that. But there's so much shame in expressing or even letting yourself just sit in an uncomfortable emotion and press pause and say, okay, I'm just gonna be in this for a minute. I need this space. Something has happened. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm okay to tell people I'm not okay. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be okay, but for this exact moment, the experience or the feelings that I have, I'm finding challenging, but I'm going to be in them. And you are obviously okay, but it's that I don't have it all together. Something is happening, a change is taking place that I am terrified of. And this is how it looks for me.
It's basically the breakdown of the ego. Because underneath all of that, there is just bliss. Because when you come to the present moment, when you're not living in that future, the future that creates the anxiety, and you're not living in that past, the past that creates the depression, and you come back in this moment, well, I've only got this moment. What have I got to be afraid of right now? I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you. There's nothing in this moment that I'm afraid of. If I think about tomorrow, if I think about next week, then there might be things that I'm afraid of. If I think about all the things that happened in my past that I wish I had differently, there's a lot of things that I could feel sad and shame about. If I think about what other people are doing that I'm not doing, then that's comparison and that's separation. That could give me anxiety, because it's like, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that and I should be doing that. But the truth is, you are you, and you are living your path the way you're living your path. And celebrate those moments when you actually come to awareness and you go, bang, I'm in a crumbling. All right, what do I do now? So what do I do, Carla?
Well, also, I think it's important that you don't have to feel stoked about it. There's no expectation. There's no right or wrong way to experience a crumbling. So long as you come back to a sense of self-assurance and you don't sit there, beating yourself up over whatever's taking place, or, being paralyzed by the fear of the unknown, of gripping to something, as Rebecca says too, for fear of nothing taking its place. You don't want to, oh, I lost my thought just then, but that's okay, because I was really connected to that experience of that change. But what we wanted to say too, after we've acknowledged the things that we find helpful, being owning your emotions, owning the space, awareness, to experience the crumbling, it does come around to be something that you can be so thankful for. And I don't think we're the only ones who feel that. I'm sure that you can already think of things that at the time were, the blessings in disguise is the term that I'm looking for. And the reality is that crumblings are actually mine and Carol's favorite thing. Doesn't make it easier at the time.
Oh, God, I hate
the other
them.
side of them.
I know they're my favorite thing, but I do hate them. I hate them when I'm in it.
You know what we do love, if not our favorite thing personally, when Carol calls me and says she's in a crumbling, or when I can sense one, I personally get excited for her.
Yeah.
It's not me in it, but I'm like, yeah you are.
Because when you allow yourself to feel the feelings, when you allow yourself to fully surrender, which means just stopping, just dropping and allowing yourself to be raw and messy, when you allow that to happen and you get through that and you get that breath back and you look back and you go, now I have the energy, because all that energy you have in that fear of the projection of what this is going to be or what that's going to be, then turns into a drive and an ambition and a full focus. All right, what am I going to do to get out of this? I'm going to seek help if I need help. I'm going to change my lifestyle if I need to change my lifestyle. I'm going to book my ticket overseas if that's what I want to do. So all these different things, what a crumbling is such a gift for. It gives us the momentous to make those changes in our life. Because if we never make those changes in our life, we are going to be bored and our lives are going to be monotonous and we're going to go, life's really boring.
Yeah. And we change so much over the course of our lives, and a crumbling is a space in between these phases, in between these changes, and ultimately why I love it so much for myself and to watch someone I care about going through crumbling is because ultimately they bring you back closer to what matters to you most. How many times have people, when they're faced with the loss of a loved one, have worked through resentment and anger and come back to compassion and love because of the fear that they've had to confront in this? And I can never think of anything to be, upset or annoyed about in a crumbling if it means that I got to get closer to understanding myself better and what matters to me, of changing the way I'd done something, and what that can look like is just redesigning your opinion of something, your perspective, your relationship with something. It's detaching from an expectation that wasn't even yours, or a fear that wasn't even yours. A crumbling that I had a couple of years ago was I'd always wanted to be an artist or do something creative, and I became a teacher because it was safe and it was expected of me. And a crumbling where I couldn't do my job anymore, I just hated it so much, meant that I came closer to I shifted out, like the reasons I had to see, the reasons that I hadn't done the things that I really wanted to do were because of other people's fears, and they were trying to protect me and keep me safe, and hope that my life would be successful and that I'd be financially secure and all those things that really did come from a place of love, but ultimately were so at odds with what mattered to me and what lit me up and what got me excited. And there were other people's fears. It was their beliefs that said you can't earn money from doing that, or you won't be, it's not sustainable, it's not realistic. And they were there to take care of me, but they weren't, and they weren't mine. So a crumbling allowed me to let my attachment of something else go and make space for something new. But yeah, crumblings take courage.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool too, because who doesn't feel bloody proud when they've done something courageous? Out of your comfort zone. Everyone's got an experience where you're getting on a train and you're terrified of them, or you speak in public and everyone's got an experience, but they have to have a crumbling to move through that, to pull your courage up.
That's right.
It's not going to get you there, is it?
Yeah. And how many times have you heard someone say that, I had this accident, or this one, I had cancer and I overcame cancer, and I look back and it was the biggest gift of my life.
Yes.
It wouldn't have been at the time. When we look back and join the dots, we see how the crumbling has become the biggest gift. But when we're in it, it can feel like we are so alone.
Yeah. Beautiful. So have compassion for yourself. Remember and watch this as many times as you need. Get in touch if you're not sure who to talk to, or that, just some reassurance that you're not alone in it when it occurs, because it inevitably will, and at least it won't make it any less painful. And we have talked about this too. We wouldn't want to take away anybody's pain as friends, if we were your friends or family members. And when we hold the space for each other in a crumbling, it's not about saving you from it. I couldn't, even if I wanted to, and that would be robbing you of the most valuable part of it, the gift that bringing you closer to you. So don't be so quick to give your power away in a crumbling. Really take the time to sit with why this is showing up. So much of the time we can, like Carol said, we can kind of mask that feeling with taking up a different addiction to numb the pain, or we can go into like a victim state or wanting other people to rescue us from it. And you will attract some really needy people who like pleasing others, who will happily do that for you, but it's not going to work for very long. So the quicker you can get to know yourself, all parts of yourself, especially most importantly you as terrified, vulnerable you, the easier you're going to find it to deal with and manage crumblings when they creep into your awareness.
And ultimately, share it. If you're in a crumbling, as soon as you share it with someone, you've already half the problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the crumbling is so much more intense and so huge when it's in you, in the head, and you're putting on this beautiful mask of, I'm okay. As soon as you share someone, you know what, I'm having a really rough time right now. And you allow the feelings to be there, or even just allow someone to be witness to your crumbling. It takes that huge weight off your shoulder. So I really encourage you, and I really empower you to surrender and allow your problem to be shared.
Yeah. I think sometime too we'll also have a video of how you can hold space for somebody in a situation like that, because it's habitual for us to want to rescue people from their pain, loved ones that we care about, but how you can also honor and empower somebody through how you hear out their struggle.
And when you're rescuing someone out of their pain, or they're rescuing you out of your pain due to not wanting you to feel that pain, what you're avoiding is the crumbling.
Yeah. It will find you.
And that's growth. It's growth. So blessings to you. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again soon. Bye.